Hello, and today's lesson is going to be on finding the nth term of a sequence. Okay, so if we look at this sequence here, year 8, you can see that the sequence is going up in twos. So the difference between each term is add 2. So we're adding 2 each time. Now, if I want to find the 10th term, I could just carry on this sequence until I get to, this is the first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, the fifth term. I could just carry on my sequence till I get to the 10th term. But there's a quicker way than that. The rule for this sequence is 2n. So if I write that down here, the rule is 2n. And what I mean by that, if I put n equals 1 in, n equals 1, I get 2 times 1 is 2. n is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. n is 3, 2 times 3 is 6, etc. So the 10th term, to get my 10th term, I put n is 10 into here and I do 2 times 10. So just to recap, the nth term is 2n and the 10th term will be 2 times 10, which is 20. If I wanted to find the 100th term, all I do is I put n equals 100 into my rule and I would get 200. So let's look at that same example, a similar example, but with a different sequence. Okay, so I want to work out what the nth term of this sequence is. Well, I can see the sequence is going up in threes, and it starts with 3 as well. So if it's going up in threes, and it also starts with 3, my nth term is 3n. For example, this is my 4th term. My 4th term is 3 times 4, which is 12. So I can see it works. And my 2nd term, when n is 2, 3 times 2 is 6. So I can see it works. For the 10th term, when n is 10, I do 3 times 10, which is 30. Okay, we're going to look at this concept a little bit more now for each of these. So I'm going to ask you to, first of all, try these ones yourself, those 4 questions. Pause the video, and I want you to find the nth term in each case. If you're completely stuck, then I'm going to go through those in a second anyway. Okay, so pause and have a go, please. Right, so well done. Let's see how you got on with that. So I can see this is going up in 5s, and it starts with 5. So my nth term is 5n. For example, the 3rd term, 1, 2, 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, the next one. This sequence is going up in 4s each time. It starts with 4, so my sequence is 4n, my nth term. So these are all my nth terms I'm going to write down here. For example, the 4th term, when n is 4, 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, next one. This is going up in 10s each time, and it starts with 10. So my sequence is 10n. And similarly, it's going up in 6s, and it starts with 6. So my nth term is 6n. This is just a quick way of finding any number in the sequence. Right, so well done. Let's move on from there now. And let's look at some other ones. Now, this one is similar to what we've just done. It's going up in threes. It's going up in threes. And it starts with 3, so my nth term is 3n. For example, the 5th term, 3 times 5 is 15. Now, let's look at this one here. This is also going up in threes. Okay, so the difference between each one. So this one's up in threes, and this one's also going up in threes, but it doesn't start with 3. But there is a connection between this sequence and this sequence. You can see I'm just adding one more each time. Okay, so 15 add 1 is 16. 6 add 1 is 7, etc. So it's 3n because it's going up in threes, but then I just have to add 1 to get my term in the sequence. For example, the 5th term, when n is 5, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Let's have another look at this type of sequence now, where I have to add or subtract to get my number. So here, this is going up in threes again, but it doesn't start with 3. In this case, it starts with 6. So I know it's going to be 3n, and I've got to add something. Well, go back to the original 3n sequence. What do I have to add to get these terms? 3 add 3 is 6, 6 add 3 is 9, 9 add 3 is 12, etc. So my rule is 3n add 3. You could also, if you wanted to work out what I'm adding here, okay, because sometimes that's a bit tricky, if you go back to find the term before, so if this is the first term, second term, third term, fourth term, we call it the 0 term. If we work out what this was, so this would have to be 3, because remember I'm adding 3 each time. This value is here is what I'm adding. Let's just check it works for this one here. If I went back 3, it would be 1. So I'm adding 1. And if we looked at this one, if I went back 3, I'm adding 0. So it's just 3n. So let's look at this one. Again, it's going up in threes, so we know it's something to do with 3n. And if I compare it, I'm always comparing it, so if I just write down, if I write down what 3n is, this is 3n, first term. And if I write what I'm looking at underneath, this is what I'm looking at. So they're both going up in threes. This sequence is called 3n, but this sequence I can see it's 1 less each time. So it's 3n minus 1. And if I went back, if I took away 3 here, I would get negative 1. So I can see that's what I have to add or subtract. Right, so well done if you understand that completely. I'm going to go through a few more with you now. So, all of these sequences are going up in threes. So to get the nth term, what we do each time is we need to compare it to this sequence. So I want you to have a go at these 3 questions, and then I'll go through each of them with you. So pause the video and have a good go. Okay, Year 8, let's look at each of these sequences. Well, this one was going up in threes, and it starts with 3. So the nth term is 3n. So this is also going up in threes, but it starts with 5. So I know it's going to be 3n, but I'm adding, each time I'm adding 2. We can check that by going back 3, and this is my adding 2 here. Okay, this one is going up 3 each time. I know it's going up 3 each time, so I know it's 3n. Okay, I'm going to compare it with, if I just write down the 3n term on the top, that might be easier to compare. Each time I'm adding 4. Okay, so 3 add 4, 6 add 4, 9 add 4, 12 add 4. So this is my nth term. If I go back 3, I can see I've got 4, which is what I'm adding. Okay, last one is going up 3 each time. So I'm going to compare it to my 3n term. So it's got something to do with 3n. In each case, I am subtracting 2. 3 take away 2 is 1, 6 take away 2 is 4, etc. And also I can just go back 3 and I can see that it's minus 2. So in each of these sequences, they're all going up in 3s, so the nth term all starts off with 3n, but to decide what I'm adding or subtracting, I can find the term before, or I can just compare it to the 3n sequence. You can do whichever one you find easiest, whichever method. Right, so let's try some 3 more before you have another go at doing some on your own. So first of all, we have to work out what is this sequence going up in. So it's going up in 5s. Each time it's going up in 5s. So I know the sequence is to do with the 5n sequence. So if I write the 5n sequence here, starting off with 5, so that's my 5n sequence, and I compare it with what I've got, and I can see I have got 1 more. 5 add 1 is 6, 10 add 1 is 11, etc. I could also go back 5 and I can see my adding 1. I go back 5 because my sequence is going up in 5s. Right, let's try the next one. This one. So first of all, ask yourself, what's it going up in? Right, I can see it's going up in 5s. Up in 5s. So it must be to do with 5n. I compare it with my 5n sequence starting off with 5. And in each case, I can see I'm subtracting 1. So that's my nth term. I could go back 5 and I can see I get my 4 take away 5 is minus 1. Okay, well done. So let's now look at another one. Okay, so have a go at that one, pause the video, and then I'll go through it. So it's going up in 2s from term to term. So it must be to do with 2n. I'm going to write the 2n sequence starting off with 2. So 2, add 2, add 2, add 2. I can see in each case 2 add 3 is 5. 4 add 3 is 7. I'm adding 3 each time. So this is my nth term. To double check that, if I go back 2, because it's going up in 2s, I can see I've got 3 here. Okay. And the very last one for you to do on your own, pause, and I'll go through it in a moment. Okay, well done. You can see it's going up in 4s. So it must be to do with something to do with 4n. I write down the 4n sequence starting off with 4. And I can see that this time it's 1 less each time. So I'm going to take away 1. So let's just check that. Let's just go back 4, the opposite of adding 4. 3, take away 4 is minus 1, which is what I've got here. Now, if you've understood all of that, I'm very, very impressed. It is very difficult to understand how to get the nth term. A very high level of work there. Right, so before I set you the work, here's 4 to have a go at doing. Just think about what it's going up in, compare it to that sequence, and then work out what you're adding or subtracting. So pause the video, have a good go, and I'll go through each question. Okay, question 1 is going up in 2s, so it's to do with 2n. I write down my 2n sequence at the top, starting off with 2. Each case I can see I'm adding 2. And also if I went back 2, because it's going up in 2s, I've got my add 2 here. Okay, next one. This is also going up in 2s, so it's 2n. I write down my sequence here, my 2n sequence, starting off with 2. Each time I can see I'm taking away 1. Just to double check that, if I go back 2, because it was going up in 2s, it's minus 1. Okay, next one, question 3. Is going up in 4s, so it must be to do with 4n. I write my 4n sequence starting off with 4. And in each case, I can see there's a difference of 3. I'm adding 3 each time. Let's double check that. I was going up in 4s, so let's go back 4 to get 3. 3 add 4 is 7. And the last one, you can see it's going up in 5, so it's to do with 5n. Let's write down the 5n sequence starting off with 5. In each case I can see it's 3 less, so I'm taking away 3. Let's just double check that take away 3. Because I was going up in 5s along here, if I go back 5, 2 take away 5 is negative 3. Okay, so well done. Right, so the work I'd like you to do is turn please to page 8 in booklet 9. I'd like everyone to have a go at A to F on question 1, exercise 9D. And then these have some negative values in and some decimals in, which is a little bit harder, so that's your challenge work. Once you've done it, please email me your work. I look very much looking forward to it. Well done, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.